Good morning, everyone. This is Martin here from Adelaide in Australia. I feel very blessed to be part of the Love Lives here, and welcome to my little mini-series on the evolution of love. I know it's the end of the first 10 days and the beginning of the second 10 days, so I'll probably just bridge this video of the love of self into loving community and build the two themes into one to start the series off. So we could ask ourselves, do we really know how to love? And it's often assumed that because we love people, because we have family, because we are aware of the grief that we feel to the environment, that we actually already have the capacity to love. And this is true, we do. We have a capacity to love. But is there a chance that love is evolving? And if so, why is it evolving? And part of what I've come to understand in my journey is that we can ask ourselves, what really is the task of our sun, our solar system, our planet with all its diversity of creatures and minerals and trees and the human beings? And it really is about learning how to love. And we could almost say that the mission of the consciousness of the earth is to bring love into the universes. And we could say, well, love's always been around. Yes, it has, but it's been enfolded, so to say, in groups of people. We love because we belong to a nation. We love because we are a family. We could say it's been built into a collective. And it hasn't been evolved fully enough yet for us to love out of a free choice. And this is part of the evolution. The evolution of our planet has been to allow the human being to grow towards being completely individuated. We live in a time where that individuation is reaching extreme proportions. We all can feel very isolated. Families are no longer in a harmonious unit, or if they are, they're becoming less and less. And we find that we live in situations where we have blended families, where we are being forced to embrace people just beyond our blood and genetic connections. We are being forced to feel the compassion towards others. And so if we take that as a possibility, that the evolution of our planet is also about the emerging evolution of human consciousness towards complete independence. We are cut off from spirit, we are cut off from nature, and many things have come from that, the wonderful society and the capacities that we have and the technology that we have. But we are being challenged to go beyond our own blood interests, our own national interests, our own community interests. But to do that, we have to, or not have to, but we can develop this capacity to love ourselves. Just about every tradition that I know of speaks of this. The Buddha speaks of, in his practice of metta, the first practice is to wish yourself well-being and health before you start wishing well-being and health upon others and the world around you. The Christ teacher also speaks of this. He says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. And the precondition of that is you have to love yourself first, or you could say the converse of that is, if you don't love yourself, you will find it impossible to love the other. But what is this love of self and how is it evolving? Because if we've been individuated that far, and if we are very isolated from the community, the danger is that we can love ourselves for the sake of ourselves. We could say we can become very egotistic or selfish, and that we love ourselves, we wish ourselves well-being, and we develop ourselves, but purely for our own providence and purely for our own sense of success, and can just, in a way, love ourselves without really taking any cognizance of, upon whose shoulders we stand when we've come to that. And the other side of that, or the other possibility of that, is that we can love so much of the other people that we forget to love ourselves and become self-effacing. And somewhere in between that, we have to find a new development or a new evolution, an emerging evolution of our love capacity for ourselves. And this is really tuning in It's a way of tuning in for our health and our well-being, but it's also a way of tuning in where we can find our sense of the gifts that we bring, our true authentic self. We each have a destiny to bring some greatness, some beautiful gifts into the world, our creativity, and to tune into that and to care for that, to nurture that. I like to bring the example of, if we want to lift a heavy log out of the way, we can't just suddenly go and lift it. We have to actually practice and strengthen our body to be able to lift the heavy weight. And it's the same with love. If we want to love ourselves, if we want to love others, we have to practice a little bit of really loving what it is that we can bring to the world. And this also requires us to take a deep look at all of the pains and hurdles and difficulties, possibly traumas that we've received, and to embrace them, to transform them into the raw material, into the strength of soul, to be able to stand fully and say, I am my authentic self, but I'm only my authentic self, not for my own benefit and for my own providence and my own well-being in the world, but I am stepping into being more me so that I can engage with the world, I can engage with the community, and out of my gifts and out of my pain and suffering, I can feel compassion. I can find the loving action, so to say, of what it is that I want to bring into the world. And so this evolution of love of self goes from being able to feel our identity because we belong to a family, because we belong to a particular village or country, being highly individuated, possibly even isolated within that family, feeling a little bit like the black sheep in a family or estranged from our community. But then it needs to grow again, evolve again from being completely in ourselves and undergoing the danger of becoming completely selfish or completely self-effacing, to being able to know that I stand in my authentic self and can engage out of that to bring my gifts into any situation that I'm faced with, out of a deep humility towards the compassion we've developed through our suffering and grief, but also to be able to say, these are the qualities, these are the gifts that I've developed in my life and can bring that to there. And so with the evolution of the love of self, we also have the evolution of our love to community, that we need to develop communities. And this is the bridge between week 1 of Love Lives Here and week 2, is that our evolution of love in community is also going from being able to love people because they are born of our blood, they are our family, they are our extended village, they are our community. We need to start developing a sense of community that is not dependent upon our blood. We can walk down the street and we can feel the connection to a stranger, a person who's in need. And even this community of Love Lives Here is born out of that quality. Not everyone in this community of people are listening to this video or receiving or doing the work out of the good of the whole. We're not connected by blood. We're connected by an idea. And this is also an evolution of the loving community, the love of other, is that we can be in different places of the world, but we're connected through the idea, not just through the bond of our identity together out of community and national identity. We are able to find love through an ideal, a task that we set ourselves, and bring our difficulties and our differences together. And in the melting pot of meeting each other, we will also evolve our capacity to feel love for the other. We could almost say that we're heading towards a time where we will not be able to rest easily if we can feel another on the earth suffering. And this is a new sense of community, an evolution of community that includes people who go beyond what we meet in our family, even beyond what we meet in our destiny, or our church groups where we affiliate, because that's where we grew up with our family. We can now create the next level, the evolving level of a sense of community, bound through agreements and bound through being able to awaken on hand of our differences, but united in a common task. So these two steps, we could say, is the evolution of our love of self, beyond just working towards my own well-being, but really taking a deep step into transforming my suffering and really embracing the great gifts I bring out of my authentic self, and then uniting with people beyond our blood and social, national communities or church communities or whatever communities we have, but building community out of a common idea and ideal, kind of the next step in the evolution of love. And as we progress in this, we will find that the evolution of love becomes more and more meaningful as we evolve, and as an emerging evolution, not just an evolution that's a choice of species, but an emerging evolution that is born of interaction between ourselves, and the creatures of the earth, and then also with spirit, which I'll speak more of in the next video. Thanks for listening. Bye.